What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. Bruce, week 17 in the NFL. We're almost at the finish line, man, and it's kind of bittersweet. Got some good games this weekend, but it's a little bit sad to start to get that feeling of seeing football go away. You know what I mean?
Jeff, it's starting to wind down for football, but the job is never done.
Of course, yeah.
The job is never done
not
out
finished.
here. Yeah, job's not finished. We can say that after last week. Crushed it last week.
Last week was good. We gave out the Steelers on here. Gave out the Ravens. We talked about some other games. The parlay. Parlay hit.
So much fading in the comments on TikTok.
Oh, for the Ravens game, yeah, bro.
Just all the picks, all the picks. It's like if you're, I swear, it's like if it's not sexy and winning. Yeah. Like there's just an unimaginable level of hate. It's almost like we don't do this for a living. It's like they're like, oh, Steelers. They're like Ravens free money. You just gave away free, dude. Where are the comments now? Yeah. I just want to. Where are they now?
I see some people come back at the end and be like, good call, but it's way less than like the people who are chirping, who are yapping. But the Steelers one I can kind of get. Like that's a gross play, but like. What is so bad about the rate? Like the Ravens have been great all year. Like I didn't understand that one. I was like, what? Like why should they be 6-point dogs? I didn't really get. Well, we talked about it on here. I said like that's got to be a field goal game, but they end up getting 5 turnovers to make it a blowout. But like I think in general, those two teams are really close. So I'm not like it's not like shocking to me that you take the 6. You know, like what's like
fly by night 49ers fans?
Beat
all you Bay Area nerds. Making it a tech company. All of a sudden, 49ers fans.
Yeah. Like if they replay that game, right? What's the line if they replay that game in San Francisco? Or let's say they meet in the Super Bowl. What's the line? I'm thinking like
minus 3 Ravens.
Exactly. I was going to say it's like if the Niners are still favored,
-5,
it's not more than 3. Yeah. No, if the Niners are still even favored, no way. So like, there you go. The 6 was a little bit of value. You just got to have a little, you can't always just go with the herd. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. And Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Exposed
a bit.
By
a
defense.
little bit of bad luck. Like feel a little bit for him because of the tip balls, but like, they had a lot of good stuff going for them all year long. I mean, like this is the stuff that we sound like a broken record, right? Look for the teams that get bounces go their way all year long. And then look to fade them at certain points in the end. And then like everyone's always so shocked when it happens. It's like we do this. It's the same thing every year. We look for these teams that have good fortune, that look like they can't be beat. And we wait for a spot to go the other way. That's really it. Yeah.
Right.
And that was the spot last week.
100%.
So Lamar's probably, probably the MVP now. So kind of interesting there if you're following that, right? I mean, I didn't dabble in the MVP futures market, but I think he was like plus 1,500 before the season started. So someone out there's probably got a Lamar 15-1 ticket on MVP. That'd be cool. But yeah, I think Purdy. I think that's done now for Purdy. And we'll get to this game this weekend that actually might decide the MVP with the Ravens and the Dolphins. But yeah, that was a good hit. That felt good to get that one on Monday, especially since I had to put a Christmas hat on to make the TikTok. So I was like, this better win. Putting his damn Santa hat on.
I'm gonna look like a clown. Yeah.
Putting his damn Santa hat on is better cash.
Looking like a clown, not cashing with a Santa hat on is going to be...
Imagine getting roasted after that. The bet loses, you get roasted with a Santa hat on.
Yep.
Oh, man. All right, so why don't we start this week with... So obviously late in the season, it's week 17, and I wanted to harp on real quick before we get into like specific matchups, just the idea of the must-win game, which you're going to hear, excuse me, you're going to hear a lot about this over the next few days, like Friday, Saturday, into Sunday morning from all the media outlets about the teams that are in must-win positions, because there's several games this week where teams need to win to stay in the hunt, and they're playing teams that have absolutely nothing to play for. But we all know, man, that if it was that easy, this wouldn't be what it is, right? Like you wouldn't have a very small amount of people that can do this. So it's not that easy.
We would just cash in.
Exactly.
If every must-win game was won by the team that had to win, our late season betting system would be super easy.
Exactly.
Like I would just take the week off. and I would just
Yeah,
ding, ding,
just
ding,
money
ding.
line
But
parlay them all.
I think, as you'll
Yeah.
explain,
Throw them all in
yeah,
the money
right,
line
exactly.
parlay and just sit back and watch. But that's not going to happen. So, and
No.
like there's a few reasons why that we can get into, but I think the main reason is that stuff is accounted for in the line. Like that stuff is priced in by these odds makers. And if it's not, by the way, when the line first opens, if that extra added motivation is not already priced in, the market quickly snatches it up and it moves the line up to the point where it is accounted for. So like, a game that might be -3.5 is now sitting at -5 because sharps got in early and they know what the deal is. So just be careful with these lines. We're going to run through the list of games, but I'll give you guys a trend as well. When we're talking about just weeks 16 and 17, so last week, including this week, teams that have to win versus, or teams technically still in the hunt for a playoff spot versus teams that have been already fully eliminated from playoff contention. Those teams that have to win are 64, 95, and 5 against the spread. So that's just 40% against the spread. So just blindly fading the teams that have to win, you cash at a 60% clip. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these lines. Just be careful. It's not going to be every team. Some teams that have to win are going to show up and take care of business. But there's going to be those sleepy teams, man, that maybe they're not so good. They're fighting for a spot, and it just doesn't go right for them, and they catch a team that has nothing to lose, right? A team that's totally is trying new things, maybe going into next year. Maybe they whip out some plays they wouldn't normally run. They throw the kitchen sink at you, and it works. We see this happen all the time, right? We just saw the Falcons 2 weeks ago in a must-win spot at Carolina, and they lost outright against the worst team. So, this stuff happens all the time. So, just watch out for that. These spoiler dogs, as I like to call them, they kind of have value this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the particular spots this week, the teams that they're facing are gross.
Yeah.
It's not gonna feel good.
Yeah.
Picking Pats, Giants,
Yeah.
Chargers, Titans, Panthers.
Yep.
Like that. This feels even more gross than any of the things that we talked about last week. Now I'm in the trenches. So
yeah.
Why don't we go through a couple of these and you tell me how you feel about them? All right. So we have Bills -12 against Zappy and the Patsies.
Yeah, I mean, that's one I made a video about. That's one that I actually would lean to Buffalo. I like them at home. I feel like it's one of those classic Buffalo come home smash spots where they just blow the team out. The reason why I like that one for the team that needs to win is because for Buffalo's just way better. But I think they can actually cover as well because I see the letdown for the Patriots after that big Sunday Night Football win. They went outright as a 7-point dog. It basically leads to Russell Wilson's benching, and and now the Pats come in. That was a huge road win. Now it's like, all right, maybe they got something here with Bailey Zappi, the defense. It just kind of feels to me like a spot where they come in flat. Buffalo just runs them out the building. The line, 12 is a lot, but it's under 13. That's probably going to get, if I had to guess, that line gets to probably 13 and a half by Sunday. So if you wanted to play it, I'd play it now. But I would still lean to the Bills in that game. Yeah.
Okay. And plus, you have the Bills. I don't know if I should jinx you on this, but you have the Bills going to the Super Bowl.
I think that's going to be our. So yeah. Once we release what we do is every year, for those of you that don't know, once the season ends, the playoffs start, send out like an email to the subs with our early futures for just the playoffs. Because I don't like dabbling in this stuff. You can catch more value if you do it early in the season, but you risk it's so high variance. I like to wait till the teams are settled, the matchups are set. I can handicap each side of the bracket, and then I can say this is the team that I see getting out of here. So yeah, if Buffalo gets in, I love their path, right? Because if they get in, I believe the first team, I can't remember who the first team they were going to face. I think it might have been the Jaguars, but I think they get by them, and then if they got to the divisional round, they would go to Miami, and they'd probably be catching points in that spot. And I can't imagine that I'd be I would probably be on them if they're a dog in Miami. I'd probably be on the Bills. So I could see a path for the Bills. But yeah, not finalized on that yet. But that is kind of my vibe right now. I think Buffalo's a way undervalued team in the AFC. So. But yeah, in terms of this game, though, I would lean to the -12. Unless that gets like above 14-ish, I maybe would lay off. 2 touchdowns.
Cool. All right. Let's move on to the Rams 5.5. over the Giants, minus 5.5. How you feeling about this
So
one?
yeah, this one's got that. This one's got that feeling to me. I don't know about you. This one
Yeah,
has the vibe
a
to me
little
for
Tyrod.
several reasons. They're on the road. That 5.5 is sketchy. I mentioned a few times before that like 5.5 feels like the new 2.5 in the NFL. Like that little bait line is like just under 6. It's not at 7, so it feels comfortable. And it's like a lot of teams are winning in that in between range, in between 3 and 7. The dogs, I should say. And yeah, the switch on quarterback. Like Tyrod looked great when he came in last week. And he's always been a serviceable backup quarterback. Like he's never been a guy that comes in and you just have no shot, right? Like I mean, he was the starter when Justin Herbert was on the bench before he got injured, and then it was, became he lost the job. But still, this guy can start in the NFL. He can ball, and that just feels like
I mean, he lost a lung.
was that yeah, his pierced lung, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that was outperformed or if somebody just punctured his lung.
Yeah.
So,
but it was one of those things where like they maybe didn't know what they had with Herbert sitting there, and then he got a chance, and it's like, all right, we can grow with this guy. But I think this is and the Giants' defense is not really that bad. I mean, they were in a bad spot last week. They were a 13-point dog to the Eagles, and they still covered. They almost had a chance to win the game or tie the game at the end. I could see the Giants being in this game right down to the end. They have nothing to play for, and the Rams are hot right now. They're beating. I think they've won 3 in a row. They're beating teams. They're in the hunt for it. But this just feels like you go on the road. It's a tough place to play. It's a decent defense. A quarterback you're not that super familiar with. He hasn't played in a while. I can see this being a game where the Giants are to the end and cover.
All righty. All right, and let's do just one more on this. So we have 3. Yeah. We have 3 more that fit this system. We have Broncos minus 3.5 over the Chargers. We have the Texans minus 5 over the Titans, and we have the Jaguars minus 6.5 over the Panthers. Which out of those 3 do you think is the spot to fade the must win?
This one's easy for me, right? I think the Broncos they bench Russ and they've got Stidham in, or Stidham, right? So he's played before Stidham for the Rays, not terrible, and you've got Easton Stick on the other side. The Chargers are a nightmare, so I would not look at the dog in that game. The Panthers are, I mean, I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to play, but it's just really tough to back them again after they've covered 2 weeks in a row now. They won one of the games. To me, it's easy, and I think it's the Titans getting 5 in Houston for a few reasons. C.J. Stroud comes back, his first game back, so everyone's just going to assume, right? He's back. Oh, they're back to business, right? Like, not always. Sometimes these injuries can have lasting effects. It took him 2 weeks to clear concussion protocol. We don't really know how bad that injury was. Typically, it's not like that, right? You miss a game and you come back. So, and second game back for Ryan Tannehill. Maybe he settles in a little bit. Derrick Henry in his career always kills the Texans in these divisional games. Always. Just comes in and runs all over them. I know he's not the same. Maybe he's not the same back he used to be, but I think he could do some damage.
I mean, definitely not the same. I think didn't he break a record for
against the Texans, yeah.
So but then he's also broken a record this year for having the most amount of carries for the least amount of yards. I think. I think so. I have to look that stat up, but I mean, those holes are not as open as they used to be.
Their offensive line is not as good as it was when they were competing. Remember that year? I think it was 2 years ago. They had the 1 seed. They were all set up. Then the Bengals and Burrow came in and beat them. But yeah, they're not not the same team they were. But this just feels like to me with him coming back, second game back. Maybe he was a little rusty last week. They lose at home in a close game to the Seahawks. They should have won the game. Now they go on the road. They're getting more than a field goal. C.J. Stroud, this is just a rookie season, but as a favorite, he's only covered twice, I think. He's like 2-7 ATS or 2-6 as a favorite. He's done great as a dog. So, for me, this feels like a prime spot to fade the Texans, who a young team with a young rookie head coach, rookie quarterback that need to win, huge pressure spot. This one feels to me like the one where it ends up being maybe a 3-point win. And if you've got Tennessee, you cover the spread. So,
right. Yeah. I see. You said that we were going to talk about the Texans this podcast. No, look at us.
We are. Came back around.
Look at us. Full game breakdown on the Texans.
Yeah, but That's
the game of the week.
game of the week. Yeah, we're here with the Giants and the Texans in Week 17. Fun stuff.
Yeah, love
this
it.
This is what happens when you're
Yeah,
trying to find value. You got to go dumpster diving.
that's fucking.
But,
It's where we
but yeah,
live,
those are the
baby.
two that I would.
I'm in the
those
gutter.
are the two that I would look at in terms of the spoiling the must-win scenario. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, now I guess let's talk about the real game of the week.
real game of the week. Oh yeah,
Yeah, not the Texans
yeah.
Titans.
Yeah, Miami at Baltimore. This one is. I mean, we talked about Ravens Niners last week, and that ended up not really living up to that. It wasn't a great game, in terms of viewing, but it was like a shocking result. It had a lot of drama around it. All the turnovers, all the interceptions. So it was a fun game. This could be a shootout, but again, just like that, like Dolphins Cowboys game last week, this feels like another grinded out type of game where you know what I mean, where the under comes in.
Yeah.
But for me, my bigger question, I don't know about you, but like my bigger question for this game is like coming off of that win for the Ravens now on a shorter week, right? Short rest. Like, are they now in a position where we get to fade them, right? For one of the first times this season. Like, are they now at their market high? And also, wouldn't you expect this line to be a little bit higher than it is? I know the Dolphins just beat the Cowboys too, but the Cowboys haven't beat anybody on the road this year. So,
Right.
This line to me,
Yeah,
and it
I
was
mean,
3.5, by the way, it got pushed down a little bit. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't call it, because the Dolphins won last week, I actually wouldn't call it a market high, really. I mean, Ravens -3, that feels about right.
Yeah.
Given what they just did last week to the 49. I would say if they went like -5, -7, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, now we're talking about maybe a market high for them. But I don't know. What do you think about the line here? What do you think about the spread?
yeah, I think so. You have to ask yourself, first of all, when you're handicapping, like, how much do you assign to the home field? Because when we look at point spreads and we look at the team that's at home being favored, you want to find out, like, what is that line actually saying about these two teams on a neutral field? Like, if all things are equal, what are they saying? So the line's saying that the Ravens are slightly better on a neutral field. And that I kind of agree with that. I would say they're a slightly better team. But what I mean about, maybe I shouldn't have said market high. I guess what I should have said was, after a game where you blow out the consensus #1 team in the NFL and get 5 turnovers, is it now time to take this like a little step, like maybe a little regression week is kind of what I mean by that. Maybe not necessarily
okay,
market
gotcha.
high, but like, is this a spot where you go back home and then like it's a little bit of a flat spot after you were so up and amped for that game, and then afterwards you get to do the victory lap of like all the people that disrespected us and this and that, and then you have to now get up once again to that level for that Dolphins offense that comes in that, per the metrics, was not as efficient as the Niners, but presents like a whole different challenge, right? A whole different level of speed and all that stuff. So maybe not as physical, but a little more trickery and things like that. So to me, it's like whenever I see that happen, whenever I see a team have a crazy wild outlier game like that, I'm thinking to myself, what are they going to follow that up with? And I think this could be a much closer game than people think, where the Dolphins are in it till the very end. And even though the Ravens looked really good last week, they have had fourth quarter struggles this year. I think they're top 3 bottom 3 in fourth quarter differential. So they've had struggles holding on to leads. It didn't matter last week, but this could be one of those games where Miami's never out of it with their offense. So I could see this being one of those games where maybe you go for Ravens first half, but I think it gets close late. And I can see this being a field goal game. So the line's sitting right at 3, I understand. But I kind of feel like there's some sneaky value on the Dolphins to win this one, and kind of throw. Everyone thinks it's locked up now. Ravens are going to the Super Bowl. Lamar's winning the MVP. Kind of feels like maybe a little swing back, which we have not seen that at all from the Ravens this year. It's been nothing but consistency all year long. So maybe this is the spot.
What do you think about the total sitting at 47 right now?
With totals 47 is a key number because 23 and 24 are common scores, like not a final score, but on each side you could have a 23 or a 24. So 47 is key. If it stays there, I would go under. If that starts to drop 46, 45 and a half, you kind of get a little tricky. Like I could see a spot where that game lands on 46 or right on 47. So, I would lean a little bit under, but I think it's for those two offenses, I think it's set just about right. It's probably where I would have it, but I would lean under.
Fourth highest total of the
Yeah.
week.
Well, that Cowboys Lions one is like super high. I think that's the highest total this year so far.
53
That's
and
the
a
highest
half.
total of the season. Yeah.
50. I know that's not on the the notes, the show notes, but where would you go on the Lions Cowboys total?
That's high. And totals that are over 50 this year, I think, are like 70% to the under or something like that. We mentioned that before. So they are cashing, at an under rate, but I don't know. I feel like that. So that game to me in general, I'll give you like my idea of that game, feels to me like a Cowboys like smash spot. Like they have another frustrating road loss. They can't beat anybody in the road. Now they go and they only put up, I think it was 22 points. Now they go back home to where they're comfortable. They're undefeated. 20. No one's even gotten close to them in that building. And the Lions just clinched the NFC North. So they come in feeling fat and happy, They got their cake and they're good to celebrate. And that defense is, I don't know if you watched that game last week, but without the turnovers, Nick Mullins was slinging it on that defense. The turnovers killed them, but the Vikings could have easily won that game. So this feels to me like a big Dak game, a big Cowboys home win. So, from that perspective, I'd probably lean a little bit over, even though all of the, if we just look at this year alone, then the metrics don't support that. But I'd probably lean a little bit over. Also, late in the season, these games, two teams that are already locked up in playoff spots kind of starts to mean less a little bit. Maybe maybe starters get pulled earlier than they normally would, etc. So I probably would lean over in that game. Root for some points.
That's a bold
I think it's high.
over.
I think it's high for a reason. Yeah, I think because I could see Dallas putting up 30. Then you don't need much more. I think that's
True.
A game where the Cowboys easily score 30 points and like get their little bounce back before the year's up.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
but what's your take on the
Lions?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No.
No, I was going to say, but back to the original Dolphins Ravens. I mean, would you still lean Ravens in this game? Like to continue? You think maybe there's some motivation there to lock up MVP, lock up the 1 seed? Well, obviously the 1 seed, but the MVP, maybe they're not going to talk about that much, but maybe there's some behind, locker room motivation for that.
I would lean the Ravens. I think, you could talk about the tip balls, but like, listen, there's a lot of tip balls in the NFL, and you don't always come up with 4 interceptions off that. Harbaugh, obviously one of the best coaches in the league. Lamar Jackson fighting for MVP. That defense
really good.
Is incredible. Their turnover rate, their pressure per snap rate is kind of off the charts. And this is just going to be another one where it's like, listen, if you could put some hits on Tua and you can start, what is he? He's still third. I think he's still like third or fourth in the NFL. I haven't looked this week, but third or fourth in the NFL in interceptions. So you can get turnovers against this offense. Like you don't know how healthy, is Waddle playing this week?
I think he's supposed to. I think they didn't confirm yet, but if it's a high ankle sprain, he's going to be out. But they didn't confirm. McDaniel said he can't confirm yet. So.
Right. And then, Raheem Mostert, ankle knee injury. They said he's going to suit up, but who knows how structurally sound he is. Are the Dolphins trying to, go into the postseason healthy? Right.
True.
They got some people banged up. I think there's a spot where where the Ravens can win and cover. So I would go with the Ravens in this one. I think that defense is coming on.
Are you impressed at all with Miami's? I mean, if you watch that Cowboys, they got so much pressure on Dak all game long. Sacked him a few times. Their defense has kind of come on a little bit. I agree with you. The offensive injuries might be a bit of a problem. And the other thing is that even if you get pressure, we saw this last week, even if you get pressure on the Ravens, he's so elusive. He's so hard.
He's so
unless
good.
The referee's tripping him, he's so hard to tackle.
Yeah.
You got to get help.
I mean, he's just a different guy, right? Like there's certain quarterbacks like the Tom Brady's of the world, the Peyton Mannings of the world. that were, if you got pressure up the middle on them, you can present some real trouble for them.
Yeah.
When you look at Lamar Jackson, you have to bring a different type of pressure, almost coverage sacks on him to get him rattled. He sort of rattles. He's one of the guys that can sort of rattle himself on an off day, where he's just inaccurate down the field. But that's gotten so much better
Really
this
a lot
season
better
under their new offensive coordinator. To the point where like it's really hard to defend Lamar Jackson now. Before there was sort of like a playbook. They were like, he's not always accurate downfield. If you keep him in the pocket, make him a pocket passer. And this year he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks. So he's going to be really hard to defend. You really got to you got to kind of get him in maybe like a bad weather spot or so, like I can see him like in late December in a playoff game where it's like 2 degrees outside and there could be problems there, but I don't know, man. It's going to be really hard to defend Lamar Jackson going into the playoffs.
Yeah, no. Listen, I'll be the first to admit if he's playing at this level, I don't think anyone's beating them. No one's beating them. Let's say if I end up, which I don't know yet, if I end up betting Miami in this game, I'm betting the spot. Like I'm gonna say after that huge emotional win, they're gonna come out a little bit flat. But I'm not I'm not betting because I think they're gonna shut them down or the matchup's great. It's always the spot. But if he plays like the way he's playing now, they're gonna they're gonna cruise. But if I end up saying I think this team will come out of the AFC, and it's not Baltimore, it's just going to be because I'm going to make the bet that he's not going to continue that for the entire time, right? Like that's essentially what you're betting on. Like when you simplify it down, when you break it down, and but you're right though. His passing, and the thing is too that he's so elusive, and maybe like 3 years ago, Lamar's like elusive in the pocket and he's getting out of the pocket to go make like an 8 to 10 yard scramble with his legs, but now he's elusive and he's getting out of the pocket to buy himself time to find someone downfield. It's so different. Like you've seen that a lot from him this year, where it's like he scrambles away from pressure, he gets away, and old Lamar would have just ran out of bounds and get a little gain, but this time his eyes are just constantly downfield, and he'll find somebody wide open who's making moves out there because they see him scrambling, and it's just those late plays that you convert like that are so backbreaking to a defense. So they chase you around. Everyone's covered, and then suddenly, boom! Someone pops over for a second, and he finds them. It is just demoralizing. Right. So that
is demoralizing.
It's that level of play is like, wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, listen, man. 66% completion percentage this year.
Nuts.
Given what he can do with his legs, insane.
Yeah, no, it's nuts.
Insane.
He's having an insane year. Yeah, and and honestly, with the way things are set up for in the AFC, you got your best chance that you're probably going to have ever to go to the Super Bowl if you're the Ravens. You already beat the Super Bowl favorite on the other side, so it's looking good if you're Baltimore. But in my experience, and I know it's the same for you, but like whenever it looks like that for a team, something ends up happening. Something goes wrong, or in certain cases, they just do it. Like some of those Patriots teams just cruise the whole way and win the Super Bowl. But sometimes things go wrong. But for me, for me specifically this week, I think I'm leaning Miami. I don't know if I'm going to play yet. I think if I could get 3 in the hook, like I'm not interested in the money line in this game. I think if this goes back to 3.5, because that's where it opened. If it goes back there, maybe I'll snag Miami as a small play and bet on a a Tucker field goal win. That's kind of my thoughts on that one. So
you gotta love those Tucker field goal wins.
Exactly. So
second mention of Tucker, we need him on the podcast.
Right. All right, sweet. So that's week 17. Like not much. You got to be careful. Watch out for the must wins. Your one big game is that Ravens Dolphins game. But this is one of those tricky weeks. You got to be careful if you bet. Maybe a lighter volume than you usually bet, or just be careful picking your spots. But I know you have we haven't had UFC in a while, and I think we're another 2 weeks until we have a fight night card. But I know you have a look ahead spot that you want to talk about. So why don't we get into that?
I'm bored, Jeff.
No, man, there's not much going
on.
I'm
so bored that I'm going to give you guys a pick for 2 weeks from now. That's how bored I am. All right. So you know, Jeff was saying stay light this week. I want you to take all the rest of that money and put it on this. No.
Let's go.
I'm joking. But we do have an early bet for the next UFC event coming up on, I think, January 13th. I think that's let me confirm.
It's Ankalev Walker, right? Yeah.
Saturday, January 13th. So you're gonna have to scroll pretty far on your betting app of choice and get this in. So early bet. The matchup that we're looking at is Bruno Ferreira versus Phil Hawes, right? And why the early pick? Well, the general rule of thumb is if you're going to bet a favorite, get that in early, snipe that line on opening. And if you're going to get in on a dog that's not getting a lot of the handle, make sure you're getting in late so you can get the best line possible. But this one, I feel like this line's going to balloon up. Right, both fighters are looking to get back in the win column after a knockout loss on each side, but knockout losses are not created equal. So generally, the line is, I'll pick them right now. Bruno Ferreira is minus 117. I think Phil Hawes is probably plus 120 right now. Physically, they match up pretty well. Right. The only difference in the fighters physically is about a 1-inch height to Hawes and a 5-inch reach advantage. So if we look at that spot historically, somebody with between a 5 and 6-inch reach advantage generally wins 62% of the time with a 22% ROI. Right. So if you look at the lines that those were bet at and you're betting $100 each time, you're going to get a 22% ROI. But here is where the spot and the tape helps, because Phil Hawes has been eating punches in his UFC career. The man has been knocked out 4 times in his last 9 fights. He's been knocked out 3 times in his last 4 fights. He hasn't protected himself well, and he has not looked the same since Roman Dolidze took his knee in, I think it's probably like 11 months ago now, 12 months ago, tore ligaments in his knee, continued fighting, and then got knocked out cold. Yeah. So, you know, Jeff, like remember that one time we were playing basketball and
I knew it.
And you pulled your calf.
I knew you were going to say something.
And you pulled your calf muscle.
As soon as you said Jeff, remember, I knew
shot.
That was coming. When I tore my calf, we were playing pickup basketball, and like just during what we just got on the court, I took a warm-up shot and tore my calf.
Okay, so imagine after tearing your calf muscle, a large man came out of nowhere and then knocked you out cold.
That's brutal. My God.
That's essentially what happened to him, only his knee. Yeah. So he comes back into the fight against Ikram, gets knocked out cold in the first round. He looks slow. He does not look like the Phil Hawes of before. He's 34 years old. I think he lost a step. He's not defending himself well. He's been knocked down multiple times. And Bruno is an absolute unit. Yeah. Like, he was knocked down in his last fight, but it's kind of fluky. He got a low kick caught, straight shot down the pipe, knocked him out. We actually were betting against him in that spot. We've been handicapping both of these fighters really well over the last year. We got all 3 knockouts on Phil Hawes. We capped Bruno when he was plus 270. We got him against Gregory Rodriguez, and then we got what's his name? God, man, these Russian guys are the best names.
What are the Evs?
Ruzaboev. Yeah. So we had Ruzaboev at plus 200. So we've been capping these guys really well, but Bruno's an absolute unit. And he has incredible knockout power in both hands. Like, we saw him put down G-Rod with not much in that punch. So on this one, I think this is probably going to balloon up to, the minus 180, minus 190 for Bruno. I think the knockout prop is probably going to be even money coming in. So I think we're looking at maybe like plus 130, plus 120 on the knockout
Yeah.
prop. So I think there's a lot of value getting in on Bruno right
Gotcha.
now at minus
Cool.
117. Like Hawes has not been defending himself. I really think that we're going to get an early first round knockout for Bruno Fajea over Phil Hawes. And it might spell the end of like Phil Hawes'
Oof.
career. Actually,
That's rough.
I'm calling that you get knocked out 4 times in your last 5 fights after this. There's not a lot up on this for a 34-year-old middleweight.
Yeah.
So that's what we're locking in
Gotcha.
early.
Bruno Ferreira. Gotcha.
Get it now before.
Yeah,
it
I mean
moves.
that's rough. I mean 3 out of the last 4 fights now, and then to have the knee thing. I mean, that's such an underrated part of fighting. Like your legs are so important. How many times have we seen guys get a knee injury and they're just completely done? They fall to the mat. It's over. And coming back from that is not like, it's not like a guarantee. Like once you have an injury like that, your knee is never the same. It's never what it once was.
No.
So, and that's where a lot of your power comes from, a lot where your movement comes from. Very tough.
Yeah, and I think the X factor here is the wrestling. Bruno Fajea not looking to wrestle in this. Phil Hawes, decorated wrestler. So if he can make the wrestling work, I think there's going to be a lot of plus money on the outside the distance or the Phil Hawes by decision. I think there's going to be a ton of plus money there to look at if you really want to go Phil Hawes. But I think the knee injury really took out the explosiveness of Phil Hawes. Like we saw him against Ikram and he's like grabbing, he's pawing. He doesn't really have that explosive power, and it was in the first round. And then he gets knocked out cold. So he was doing the electric boogaloo against Roman Dolidze. He got put out flat against Ikram. Like I think the dude's chinny now. So I think Bruno is gonna sort of weather that first blitz, and then unfortunately I think Phil Hawes is gonna go out cold.
Sweet. So Bruno
and we've been hot. So listen,
hot, baby, let's go. Yeah, the pod plays have been super hot. There hasn't been a card because it's been off for a while, but can't wait for it to get back. It's usually the highlight of like the best time of year is like these. Like, it's coming to an end soon, but the best time of year is like noon on a Saturday. That college football slate starts, and you're 100 college football games at once, and then it calms down at night, and you just watch dudes fuck each other up in the UFC at night. That's like the best Saturday, the best sports Saturday. With like some other stuff sprinkled in, NBA sprinkled in, hockey sprinkled in, but like those are the 2 main things. You're like, I'm going from football to UFC fight night, and my day is beautiful. It's set. So looking forward to get it back.
And there's a lot of even money fights right now, or dogs that we think are gonna knock people out. Like I think UFC is coming back with a vengeance.
Let's go.
And this spot is the opener of the main card. Right. So generally what you look at is like there's 3 spots where the UFC wants knockouts. They want it in the very first fight of the night. They want to be a banger. The prelim. Yeah, I never said this.
That's an interesting angle. I like that.
The prelim headliner and the main card opener are usually spots where the UFC wants to see people get knocked out.
I love that stuff.
If you're making TV, you're making TV, where do you want? People are going to come in last fight of the prelims and they're like, oh, this guy got knocked out. Let me keep watching. The very first fight, they want people hooked. They want a banger. And then the main card opener, they want people to get. They want somebody to get knocked out. Right.
Totally makes sense.
They want good TV. So putting this in that slot tells me that they expect somebody to go out in this one. And I think it's going to be Phil Hawes.
I like it, brother. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So did you have a pocket change parlay for this week or no?
No, don't talk to me about that. I'm the worst pocket change parlayer in the entire universe right now. You give it.
I'll give a,
I'm retiring for a little bit after my last one.
Got it. I'll give a quick one here. I got one. So the one I gave hit last week, I think it was Falcons and Dolphins. So how about this week? We'll go. I love the spot for the Colts. They come off that loss to the Falcons, but now they go back home. The Raiders come in. The Raiders' last 2 games, they put up 60 points. Then they beat the Chiefs outright as a 10-point dog. forget it. This is fade spot, right? This is fade material. So I like the Colts
No, that's what I
on
said
the
last week.
on the money line. They give me the Bears on the money line straight up. They're playing the Falcons. Falcons just had their big win, but they're terrible on the road. And that Bears defense is legit. Like the Bears are going to be dangerous next year with how Justin Fields is playing right now. So anyway, give me the Bears, and then finished off with the Broncos against the Chargers in that division. So that's plus 300 if you put those three together. So remember, don't ever go more than three. Like I know it's tempting, but after three legs, you lose. Like that, the books odds, their advantage after three legs is astronomical. So keep it to 2 or 3. So Colts, Bears, Broncos plus 300. That's going to be the one that hits this week. That's going to hit this week, baby. Let's go.
Because you hit last
Exactly.
week.
So we're going to hit it again this week. But these are all pretty like minus 175, minus 155, minus 180. These are all decent favorites. You know, last week they were both two small favorites. So, but I think this week these guys take care of business. So we'll cash that one. All right. So, baby, anything else, or we're good? We're hitting 40 minutes on the dot. See, we're tightening it up. Last week was a little bit longer.
Just getting the miles.
That's it.
Getting the miles in.
All right, sweet. So good luck with your bets, everybody. We'll be back next week. Talk a little bit more about the final week of the NFL season and some other stuff too along the way. All right, man. See ya. Good luck with your bets. Peace.